Hello everyone, I'm Jay Joshi and welcome to the 19th episode of Learning Java. Today we'll be learning about one-dimensional arrays. So first of all, what are arrays? So an array is a data structure that can store a set of data values. So it's basically like a collection of variables. So instead of having separate variables like int a, an array is like a collection of a mix of variables of the same data type. So since the variables are of the same data type, it's also called as a homogeneous data structure, which means they're of the same data type. So you'll understand what arrays are when I show you an example. And but remember that array is a very important concept and you'll use this a lot in later on in your programs and it's very useful. So it's used to like store a lot of names or store like a large value of data basically. So for example, let's say you want to store the marks of 100 students. So you can't declare 100 variables and then initialize them, store each one of them. So instead of declaring 100 variables, you can just declare an array, and inside that array, you can declare hundreds of marks, for example. So let's see how we declare an array. So this right here is the basic syntax of declaring an array. Just a second. So yeah. So first we have the data type. So this can be any of the 8 primitive data types: byte, short, int, long, float, double, boolean, char, string. So this can be any one of those, the data type. Then you have the name of the array. So when you're declaring the name of the array, it can be any name, AR, capital A, C, any name. It can be anything, but it should follow the identifier rules. And then you put the open and close square brackets. You put and then is equal to. So this is what the data type and name of the array is. So for example, int AR and then open square bracket, close square brackets is equal to, then you put the keyword new, like how you have scanner sc is equal to new scanner. So this new keyword, which is used to allocate memory for the particular array. And then you put the data type again. So the same data, it should be the same data type which you put over here. And then the number of elements. So let's say, like in the previous example, we want to store 100 names. So the number of elements will be 100. So the number of elements is basically the total number of variables we want in that particular array, the total number of values we want in that particular array. So here are a few examples of the declaration of arrays. So we can put int AR is equal to new int open square brackets, close square brackets 12. And just a note over here, this should be all square brackets. I didn't put them over here because I want you to make a point that you can put these square brackets over here as well between the data type and the name. So the square brackets can be here as well. But I prefer them putting here. You can put them anywhere. It's your wish. So they can be anywhere. So int AR, that's the data type, which should be the same as over here. AR is the name of the particular array. It can be any name, should follow the identifier rules. Open square brackets, close square brackets is equal to new keyword and 12. So in this case, we want 12 elements. And same for double marks is equal to new double 100. So this has 100 elements. The Boolean one has 5 elements. String one has 20 elements. The character one has 1000 elements. So there can be as many elements as possible, but it should remain in the particular limit of data type. Now note over here is that what number should this be? Can this number 12 be, what if we write this as a 12.0 or we write something like -5? So this number, the number of elements should always be a positive integer value, which is greater than 0. So this number over here, the number of elements should be 1 or greater than 1. So 1, if you want only one element, it can't be less than 1, it can't be a decimal number or anything. So it should be a positive integer value greater than 0, shouldn't be 0. That's basically how you declare an array. So in all of these cases, let's say we look at the first case. When I declare the array int AR and the number of elements is 12, 12 different variables are created inside the array AR, which are of the data type int. So what value do these variables have? So these variables will have the default value of that particular data type. So in this case, all the 12 variables inside this AR will have the value 0 because we haven't initialized that particular variable inside that array. So they'll have the default value, which is 0. For double, it'll be 0.0. So all of these 1000 elements or 100 elements will have the default value 0.0. Boolean will have the value false. false, false. String will have just null, so open bracket, close bracket, it'll be null. And for character, again, it'll be nothing, so it'll be empty. You can write that as like backslash u and then 4 zeros. You might have seen this somewhere. This is actually the default value of character. It's something along these lines. I'm not too sure, but you don't need to know that. It's just that it's empty. So whenever you only declare an array, like how, let's say we declare a variable int a. So this variable currently, what value does it have? It has the value 0 because it's an integer. If we do double a, it will have the value 0, 0.0. Boolean a, it will have the value false. So in the same way, all these arrays, the values of the variables inside them have the default values. Now, how do you initialize an array with a particular value? So this over here is how we declare and initialize together. Now I'll be telling how we only initialize later on. So this is how you only declare an array, and this is how you declare and initialize an array. So let's see what this is. So again, the same, this part of the declaration remains the same. So the data type, int, the name should follow the identifier rules, which is num, and then open square brackets, close square brackets. So this part remains the same. But over here, instead of just declaring new int and the number of elements, what we do is we write the actual values we want. So let's say in this particular array, we want 5 elements, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and those elements have the values 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we can declare and initialize the particular array num of data type integer this way. So this particular array has 5 elements. As you can count, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it has 5 elements, and those 5 elements have the values 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in that respective order. In the same case, string month, you can declare them in open curly brackets, close curly brackets, and remember to put the quotes because that's how we declare string. And in the same way, and all of these are separated by a comma, which is compulsory. So Jan, Feb, March, float F, the square brackets come here as well. So we put all the values of float, and there's a F suffix because we have to put that since it's important. Otherwise, it just assumes it's a double. Char C, you have to put the single quotes with all of these. So in this case, the array length is 4. In this case, the array length is 3 because there are 3 elements. In this case, the array length is again 3, and over here it's 5 since there are 5 elements. Now, important point to note over here is that once you declare and initialize an array like this, you can't increase the length of the array. And so that's basically a disadvantage. So let's say I declare this array int num and it has these 5 values. I can't add another value to this array. The size of the array remains fixed. So this is a disadvantage, that once you declare an array with a particular size, its size remains fixed. Same applies for all the different data types of the arrays. And also a disadvantage is that the values in the array have to be of the same data type. So that's the basic disadvantages. Otherwise, arrays are very useful as they can be used to store a large number of values. Now, how do we access a single variable? Let's say I want to access the variable 4 in this from this array. How do I perform operations with that? How do I print that value? So let's see how we do it. To do that, we need to know about the index of a number. So let me show you the next example. You'll understand better. So over here, we have declared a string array weekday, which has 5 elements. So 5 elements, and its data type is string. Its name is weekday. And we know it's an array because it has these open, closed square brackets. Now, all of the 5 elements in this currently have null because it's default. We haven't initialized it. So instead of this, we could have, so we later on initialize all of these values as Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. What we could have done, like in this case, string month, we could have done something like string weekday is equal to, and then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. That's it. Yeah, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So that way we could have done it in one line. But this, you will understand what the index of the array is all about. So if I want to declare the first element, so we have an array length of 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is what an array looks like in its memory. This is just a basic demonstration. It's not like how it actually is. And these are the 5 elements. So the length of the array is 5. in this case the weekday array. Now the index of an array basically tells the position of a particular element in an array. So index always starts from 0 and ends with the index n minus 1. Over here n is the length of the array, which in this case is 5. So the minimum and maximum index over here will be 0 to 4. 4 because the maximum index can be n minus 1. So 5 minus 1, which is 4. So the indexes will be like this: 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 in this order. So if we have 100, it'll be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 till 99 because n minus 1. Now this, all of these currently when we declare the array, this gets created inside the memory, this full thing. And each of these has the value null currently. So when we access a particular index element of an array, we do weekday and then open the name of the array, basically open close square brackets and the particular index. So this will always be a number from 0 to a number less than the length of the array. Otherwise, the program will give an error, array index out of bounds, if you, for example, try to access the number, the element, 50th element of this array, because there is no 50th element. The maximum element index is 4. So 0 basically is the first index, first element. So this particular will be the first one. So this will store Monday, the full Monday. Weekday 1 will store Tuesday. Weekday 2 will store Wednesday. Weekday 3 will store Thursday. And weekday 4 will store Friday, because that's how we declared them. So weekday 0 is equal to Monday. Weekday 1 Tuesday, weekday 2 Wednesday, weekday 3 Thursday, weekday 4 Friday. So this is how you basically access a single element, a single element at a time from a particular array. Now this together is a full variable, and we can do any operation with this variable. We can do system.out.println weekday SOP. I can put something like this, the full form, and I can put this. So this weekday 0 is basically the 0th index element of the array weekday. So it's that simple. So this full thing is one variable. Think of it as a variable, and you can perform every single function with this. If you want to find out the length of the first index of this array, you can do something like the weekday or weekday and the particular index. So this is square brackets dot length. So you can, using this is the string function. If you don't know what the string functions are, you can watch my video. So this is the variable, and let's say in normal cases this will be just the variable s or anything you name it, but in this case this is the variable and dot length. So you can use any function or anything. You can treat it as a normal variable. You can use the substring, char, anything you can use. So basically this full thing is a variable, and this is what happens inside the memory. Now how do we use these arrays? So let's say I declare and initialize an array int num is equal to 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And this has the element 5 elements, so its length is 5. Now to find out the length of an array, you can use this, the name of the array dot length. Now this is basically, if we print num dot length, it will print 5 because the length of the array is 5. Now you might remember over here, as I showed, that to find out the length of the string, you use dot length, open bracket, close bracket. But over here, we only use dot length. There's an open bracket, close bracket. And this is an important difference to remember, that in strings, since it's a function, it's a string function. So that's why we have open brackets, close brackets. But in this case, it's not a string function. It's just a feature offered by Java. So you can find out the length of that array using num.length. And you'll understand this better, the usage of these brackets, when we cover functions, because this is actually the parameter storage. So anyways, to find out the length of an array, you use the dot length only function, only dot length without the brackets. So we have a for loop over here, as you can see. And in this for loop, the main motive is to print out all the elements in different lines. So like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this should be the output. So we have a for loop, int I is equal to 0, I should be less than 5, and I plus plus. So why should I be less than 5? Why not less than equal to? Why not greater than 5? So when we print the statement system.out.println num of I, we are accessing the ith index element of this num. So let's have a look at the memory thing again. So we have 5 elements over here: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This index 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And the total length of this is 5 because there are 5 elements. So these are the indexes. This has the value 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So these are the index and these are the values of those in that particular index. So when I access, so in the first iteration, I is 0. So when I access the 0th index element of this, it's going to print 2 because the 0th element num of 0 is 2. So num of 0 is 2, is going to print 2. Then it goes back I plus plus, I becomes 1, and num of 1 is 3. So it's going to print 3. Then again iteration, num of 2 is 4. So it's going to print 4. Then num of 3, that's going to iterate from 2 to 3, it's going to print 5. And then finally its I is going to become 4. Num of 4 is going to be 6. Now when it becomes 5, 5 is less than 5, which is wrong. So then it's going to come out of the for loop and without giving any error. So it's less than 5 because I represents the particular index. And as I mentioned, the index should be 1 less than the length. So that's why it's less than. So we don't want the index to be equal to the length because then it'll give an error. The index is always 1 less than the length, one number less than the length. So this is how we basically understand the particular arrays and how we can use them. Now, a final example is just a simple example to better understand the concept. We declare a scanner is equal to new scanner system.in, and we declare an array over here. Int 10 is equal to new int. And let's say I haven't put a value over here, so let's say we put a value 4. And if you don't put a value over here, it's gonna give an error. It won't technically give an error, it's basically correct because then you can declare it later, but then you'll understand this better when we study about memory. But just for now, just put the number always whenever you declare an array. So then first we declare an array and all the 4 elements, because it's 4, the 4 elements have the value 0 because it's the default value. Now we have the for loop. For int I is equal to 0, I should be less than n dot length, I plus plus. It's the same for loop as in this case. So we use the n dot length function. And instead of using the number 4 over here, even though we know the length, I would always recommend using this n dot length function. Even in other cases, like whenever you're using a string in a for loop, always use the dot length open bracket close bracket function because it's a better programming habit so that just in case if you change the values or you don't know the length of an array, you can use this so you won't have to remember the different values. Now we have the loop again. And in this loop, instead of printing it, we are accepting the value in that particular array variable using the sc.nextInt. So when it comes in the for loop, it's going to ask the user to enter a value in that particular n of I. So first will be 0, then 1, 2, 3, and that's it. Then the loop's going to stop because it's 1 less than the length. So this is a program code to know to ask the user to accept values in that particular array so that you can store them for later, whatever you want to do in your program. So in the previous program code, we could print all the values in that array, and over here we can accept values from the user in an array. So this is the basic concepts of arrays. I mentioned the advantages. Advantage, for a quick recall, is to store a large number of values. And the disadvantages are once you declare the length of an array, you can't change it. So its size is fixed. And all of them have to be of the same data type. So these are the two disadvantages and the advantages. And overall, arrays are very useful. You'll see them. I would say start using them in your programs from now. To try out, play with them, have fun with arrays, and slowly you'll get along with them and you'll start using them in your programs more and more and more. So that's it for today, everyone. Thanks for watching. And if you have any queries, doubts, or suggestions, you can mail me. My email will be in the description down below. And thanks again for watching.